many of you are familiar with something called reading fluency?
Yes,
Okay?
just in
Great.
and we need a filter or something so that the screen goes forward. It goes forward, it does not go backward. Is that the only way you want? Yeah. The screen, we need a flicker basically. Do you want to come and, yeah, so that it goes forward, backward? Okay, but how do you make? No, I don't see a back arrow. Yeah, but the computer is too much. It's small from the screen. Yeah. Yeah. I don't see it. Yeah, I know how to use it. I don't see it. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Somebody is coming.
Okay.
Is that how things work in Florida Station?
Should we
I have no idea. I haven't met all of the
Is that better?
Maybe I don't want to get confused. Yeah, I see.
I mean, only thing is, you have to stand here hiding from others. You have to stand here hiding from others. Yeah, I can do it.
I can just touch it, it's okay. I mean, if you,
Yeah, but if you want to go back, then I'll tell
can
you.
go back
Okay?
and you can help me.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll start. I wrote this lengthy introduction for Dr. Kim, and but everybody knows her. But basically, she got her doctorate from Harvard, and right now she has a joint appointment with the Florida Center for Reading Research and Florida College of Education. And her primary research areas include language and literacy acquisition and instruction, including early literacy predictors, reading fluency and comprehension, and writing. She is currently a principal investigator and co-investigator of several studies funded by the Institute of Education Sciences, U.S. Department of Education, and National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. Dr. Kim is the author or co-author of over 30 journal articles published in journals such as Journal of Education Psychology, Scientific Studies of Reading, Applied Psycholinguistics, and more importantly, Reading and Writing in English. The title of Dr. Kim's presentation is Developmental Relation of Reading Fluency and Reading Comprehension. Please help me welcome Dr. Kim.
I want to let you know that I'm very thankful to be here. It's such an honor to be invited to talk about what I love to do. So, my name is Young-Suk Kim. I usually go by Young, depending, if you feel you can pronounce it quite accurately, feel free to call me Young-Suk, or if you feel that Young is fine, that's fine as well. So, I'm at Florida State University and Florida Center for Reading Research. And as Dr. Joshi mentioned, my research kind of interest is somewhat broad, depending on how you look at it. So as you know, language has, oops, now it went back. Oh, okay, I should touch it here, then it goes forward. Okay, language has many aspects, right? Depending on who you talk to and depending on your theoretical orientation, there's kind of small piece of knowledge, vocabulary, morphology, syntax, and paragraphics, and discourse. And when we talk about literacy, of course, literacy has several aspects as well, right? Word reading, spelling, which is kind of both our lexical level reading skills, and then there's kind of discourse level skills, including reading fluency, reading comprehension, and written comprehension. And my overarching kind of interests are how these different aspects of oral language skills are related to different aspects of literacy skills. And I did look at, some skills that are important for spelling and word reading. But in my current work, I focused on these three, reading fluency, reading comprehension, and written comprehension. And today I'm going to talk about one aspect of reading fluency that I have looked at. So I don't know your backgrounds, and I do not want to assume that you are all very familiar with terms and things like that in reading. So I prepared this presentation assuming nothing. So if you are given this kind of short passage, right, and you're asked to read, okay, what are some of the skills that are necessary at minimum to understand what you're reading? What are the essential necessary skills at minimum? What do you need? What skills do you need?
Vocabulary.
So vocabulary, so oral language skills, why do you need that? To understand what you're reading. But, okay, that's great, that's more important. How about the other bits? Right, you need to first be able to decode the words, right? Otherwise, these things are just a kind of gibberish, right? Meaningless symbols. So, in terms of reading comprehension component skills, a very well-known reading model, right? According to the simple view, what you just told me, there are two essential to necessary skills. For reading comprehension, you need at least these two, decoding skills and language comprehension. It's minimal. However, there's been talk and interest about something called reading fluency. So, I think first we have to kind of define, and to be on the same page, we have to understand what reading fluency is. And people have been looking at reading fluency quite a bit, and this is a very just a fraction of studies. So, what is reading fluency? Okay, what is it? Reading fluently, but it doesn't help. What does reading fluently mean? So, according to some people, of course, people have different opinions. According to some people, reading fluency is accurate and rapid reading of connected text, not words in isolation, with expression, also called reading prosody. Okay, so there are three components, right? What are they? Right. So I'm going to make this interactive. I'm going to ask you questions if you don't mind. So I underlined it for you. So it's accuracy of word reading and speed of word reading, but not in isolation, but in connected text. And of course, it's an expression, so it's not monotone. It's reading with expression. So using the same. Oops. Let's go back. Oops. How do you go back? Sorry.
Okay.
This? No.
Yeah.
There we go. So now, okay. So here, the same sentences, right? Can anyone read this with expression and so with kind of reading fluency for the group? Any kind of brave soul here? Thank you.
Rachel was sitting in the porch. It was hot and humid. Mosquitoes and unknown bugs were buzzing around Rachel's head. How annoying, she thought.
Thank you. That was an excellent reading with reading fluency. So was there expression? There was an up and down, right? There was a pitched variation, right? And there was a, did you hear pause? Right? That's typically reading prosody, right? That's fluent reading. This fluent reading might be something like this. Rachel was sitting. Is that fluent or disfluent? Disfluent in terms of word reading, right? Another way of disfluent reading could be Rachel was sitting in the porch, it was hot and humid, his mosquitoes. focus, right? There's no up and down, there's no expression. So some people regard that as reading without expression, so not fluency. So, why should we care about reading fluency? Not for the sake of it, but it's because it has a very strong relation with reading comprehension. For kids in primary grades, grades 1 through 4, the correlation, this is bivariate correlation, it ranges from 0.70 to 0.91. That's very strong, right? As you can see here, kids who perform very well in reading fluency and they do well in reading comprehension. By the way, the vast majority of studies that looked at reading fluency, they looked at rate, right? Reading words accurately with speed, and that's how it's defined here, and that's how it's going to be defined in this presentation. But reading prosody is a separate piece that I'm looking at, not right now, but in another talk perhaps. So reading fluency defined as a reading rate matters, right? And studies have shown it's not something new. But why though? Why would it matter? So I want you to take a look, I want you for now, read this one, and while you're reading, try to comprehend it, and while you're trying to do that, then try to think about the processes that are going on in your mind. Okay? So go ahead. Done? Okay, first of all, do you notice anything unusual?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, oh yes, so what do you notice? Written in kind of unconventional ways, right? Kind of mixture of uppercase, lowercase. And what did that do to you in terms of your reading rate? You had to slow it down. Did that have any impact on your reading comprehension? Yes? Was it compromised to some degree? Why? Any kind of reflection on what was going on in your brain?
Instead of focusing on what is going on, I'm focusing on how is that word said.
So you're trying to, so your attention is really focused on trying to decode the word.
Yeah.
So, and then you said it had a negative impact on your reading comprehension. And that's exactly why reading comprehension is, reading fluency is supposed to be important for reading comprehension. So, all human beings have limited amount of cognitive resources, right? So your attention and working memory, they're all limited. So that means when you're focusing on one thing very hard, there's very limited amount of attention that can be paid on to something else. So, for example, if your decoding is laborious and disfluent, then all your cognitive attention and working memory are expended on decoding, like reading this way. However, if you have an automatic recognition, an instantaneous recognition of words, you don't have to pay attention to that anymore. Now instead, you can pay attention to the meaning construction. So this is as if you're reading this version for proficient readers like you, right? So the reason why I actually had this kind of unconventional way of writing words was to kind of mimic in some ways about what kids are facing when they're encountering kind of some multi-syllabic words that they're not familiar with. They have to stop, think about it, focus on decoding. Therefore, their attention to comprehension is limited. Is that clear? Okay. So then the next question is, okay, so I get it. That's why reading rate, in recognizing words in context fast enough is important. But what are some skills that contribute to reading fluency then? According to National Reading Panel, which is NICHD 2000, right, and a very well-known scholar, Airy, reading fluency, which is connected text reading, is built upon accuracy and rate of lexical level, basically word reading in isolation. So if you can read the word cat in isolation, of course you can read that word in connected text, right? So that makes sense. Well, if that's the case, then how is this word reading fluency in isolation? Why would that be different from reading fluency in connected text? Because people have argued that it's different, two different things. Are they really different? And if so, why are they different? So, for that, we're going to do another exercise. I'm going to show you a list of words, right? Words in two different formats. One in this format, the other one in connected text. I want you to work with someone next to you or by yourself. If you have a cell phone or a timer, use that. Try to time yourself or your partner about how long it takes for you to read this, then move on to this, or you start with this one first and then you move on to this one. So go ahead. Take out your timer, cell phone, whatever. See how long it takes for you to read this? Good. Read aloud.
Interesting.
So to let you know, these are exactly the same words. Okay, it just didn't different format. So who read this one faster? Okay, who read this one faster? Okay, you're like everybody else. So not only adults, but for children, they read much faster when words are presented in connected text. And it's been confirmed in previous studies. And the reason is why. They're the same words, right? According to theory by Posner and Schneider and Posner, when you're reading words in connected text, you're actually, there's some level of comprehension, syntactic comprehension, semantic comprehension going on. You're actually expecting what words are going to come. So that's why you're reading faster the same words in connected text than in this kind of isolation. Okay? Does that make sense? So what that means in terms of theory then, reading fluency is built on not only accuracy and rate of word reading in isolation, but language comprehension would matter as well, right? Because language comprehension is built in for reading fluency. You read faster when words are presented in connected text. Well, however, though, this has been just speculation. People have not looked at it empirically. Is that really the case? And if that's the case, that's why reading fluency has such a strong relation with reading comprehension, over and above word reading fluency in isolation. So, okay, here we go. So, here we're talking about reading fluency somewhere, right? Because this has been established pretty well by studies including Dr. dependent upon decoding skills, right? But also some level of comprehension is going on. That's why it is predictive of reading comprehension. Another way of reading fluency has been kind of explained and speculated is by the chart actually, is that reading fluency acts as a bridge, so-called bridge, between word reading and reading comprehension, but they never really defined what bridge means and how it works. So according to them, it's something like this, right? Reading fluency is bridge between decoding and comprehension. So once reading fluency is in the model, decoding will not be uniquely related to reading comprehension, while language comprehension is uniquely related to comprehension because that's been shown, right? So it might play as a mediated role, but what is the nature of the mediating relation? It's not clear. I think I went, do you mind going back? I think I went a little bit. No, maybe not. I thought I had one more slide. So in the present study that I'm going to present, this is what I examined essentially. So there is word reading fluency, there's language comprehension, and we know they're important for reading comprehension. But it's been suggested that reading fluency is important and may play as, act as a mediator. But some hypotheses suggest that reading fluency is not just mediating the word reading and reading comprehension, but it is also influenced by one's language comprehension. So this is what we examined. Okay, so the nature of mediating role of reading fluency. Another thing that we looked at was developmental changes in these relations. So does this look the same across developmental stages? So kids are in the beginning stage versus at more advanced stage, because the hypothesis does not tell you whether it's static or not. Another focus of this study was to compare results for English-speaking children and Korean-speaking children. All the previous studies on reading fluency in connected text have been with English-speaking children. So, and English, as you know, has a default property, right? So I wanted to see whether this kind of relations hold for a language that has a fairly transparent authority. So to look at those, to address those questions, we had two samples of children, actually. For English-speaking children, we had longitudinal data for children when they were in grades 1 to 4. We followed them from grade 1 to 4. And the sample size at the end of grade 4 was 193. The majority of the sample was white, and about 18% was black, and the rest were small, Hispanic 7%, 5% Asian. About half were boys, and the ages ranged from 83 months in grade 1 to 120 months in grade 4. For Korean-speaking children, we had two cross-sectional samples. This is not a longitudinal sample. So we had 98 kindergartners and 170 first graders, and they were assessed in the beginning of the year. And to look at the developmental kind of relations, I divided first graders into more skilled versus less skilled as a function of their word reading accuracy. And all these students were from middle class backgrounds. So I used latent variable, which is structural equation modeling. So these are the 4 latent constructs. So to measure these latent constructs, we had several observed tasks for each. So for English, word reading fluency was measured by power, sight word efficiency. There are 2 subtests. So in this test, basically, children are given a list of words, and they're asked to read words as accurately and fast as possible for 45 seconds. Oral reading fluency was measured by Thibault's oral reading fluency, and you're given a passage. The child is asked to read a passage as fast and accurately possible, and the number of words they read correctly in 1 minute, that's the score, and we had 3 passages. Listening comprehension was measured by Woodcock-Johnson oral comprehension. That's a kind of oral closed task. So children listen, and they were given a sentence, and there was a kind of oral closer, and they were asked to kind of provide the right word. So for example, if I said, people sit in, there were two researcher-developed tasks. One was narrative passes, the other was expository text, and children heard it, and then they were asked comprehension questions. And reading comprehension, there were 4 measures. One was Woodcock-Johnson passage comprehension. The other one was Woodcock reading mastery passage comprehension. Both are all closed, so children read sentences or passages and provide the correct word in close. And the research and development passage 1 and 2 are similar to these two. So one was narrative, the other one was expository text. They read those texts and they were asked open-ended questions regarding the passages they just read. So these were assessed in each grade, in grades 1, 2, 3, and 4, once a year. For Korean-speaking children, their word reading fluency was measured by words selected, randomly selected from the oral reading fluency passages. And so there were 3 tasks. Their oral reading fluency was assessed by 3 passages, very similar to Dibble's. Listening comprehension was researcher developed. They were adapted from OWLS in English and also CASTLE in English. They're both listening comprehension measures. They were adapted to Korean. So basically, children hear, kind of exchanges of conversations, and they're either asked to point to the correct answer, a correct picture among 4 to the question, listening comprehension question, or there were open-ended questions. Reading comprehension was measured by 3. One was oral closed task, very similar to passage comprehension in English, and the other 2 were reading passages, and then they were asked to provide correct answers to the reading comprehension questions. And reliabilities are all acceptable, but also it's latent variable codes. So there was some flow effect in grade 1, for example, in listening comprehension, but it was not as much a concern here. Questions? I think I'm going fast.
Question.
Yes.
You assess the English-speaking students only in English,
yes.
and the Korean students
Only in
in
Korean.
Korean. Okay.
There are monolingual Korean kids.
Okay.
Thanks for clarifying. Okay. So the main kind of analytic strategy was using confirmatory factor analysis and structural equation modeling. So basically, there are indicators, there are latent variables, right? I'm not going to show you all these loadings and things like that in this presentation because you can just trust me, the measurement models all good, because if I show you all this, it's just too cluttered, right? So here are results. For English-speaking children, this is descriptive statistics. I know you can't see them, but I'll just tell you just a few things. Their oral language comprehension, according to the standard score of Woodcock-Johnson oral comprehension, it's pretty much in the average range. So standard scores range from 108 to 110. Their sight word efficiency is also in the average range, 101, 102. Their passage comprehension is also in the average range, 106, 102. So, good variation of, skill levels and also kind of average range of kids. That's the main. For Korean-speaking kids, there's no norm. The assessments were developed and there's no norm information. So one thing you might want to look at is, the difference between kindergartners and first graders. And first graders performed better than kindergartners in all the measures. And skilled word readers in first graders performed better in all the measures than less skilled word readers. So here's some results. These are correlations among latent variables for English-speaking kids in grades 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So one thing you notice is the relationship between listening comprehension and reading comprehension becomes stronger over time in grades 1 through 4. So in grade 1 is 0.70, grade 4 is 0.90. And this has been observed, right? When kids are in the initial phase or beginning phase of reading, their listening comprehension matters, but not as much. But as kids advance his or her reading skills, their individual differences in listening comprehension matters more for their reading comprehension because their word reading is reaching some others, right? Now, word reading fluency and reading comprehension, the pattern of relation is the opposite. So it's very strong in grade 1.93, and it's kind of moderate in grade 4.56. It also makes sense, right? In the beginning stage of word reading, differences among kids in their word reading would place a constraint on how much they comprehend, right? Good word readers will comprehend more versus poor word readers, they cannot comprehend what they're reading. So it makes sense. The relation between oral reading fluency and reading comprehension becomes weaker over time, but not as much. So in grade 1, it's 0.90, 0.81 in grade 2, 0.82 in grade 3, and 0.77 in grade 4. So it remains fairly strongly related to reading comprehension in grade 4 still. So that's English-speaking kids. Korean-speaking kids, these are the results. Here I'm showing only the kind of kindergarten and first grade. I'm not showing the skilled readers in first grade and not skilled readers in first grade because the patterns were exactly the same. So what we notice is similar. So listening comprehension and reading comprehension is more strongly related for the advanced readers in grade 1. Word reading and reading comprehension is more strongly related for kids who are in a more initial phase of word reading, which is kindergarten. And oral reading fluency is very strongly related for younger, right, children, and then children in first grade. Okay, so very similar pattern. So that's correlation. And I'm going to show you now the results from circular equation model. So these are results for English-speaking kids from grade 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it's going to be a little bit small. I know it's going to be hard to see, but I wanted to show you the progression. That's why I put them all together. So one thing I want to note is, what I'm not showing you is the correlations across grades. They were all correlated. They were allowed to be correlated, but I'm not showing you those because it's just too clear, right? So just know that in the model, they were allowed to be correlated across all the grades. So let's focus on only this part only. Word reading, listening comprehension, or oral reading fluency here. Okay. So what you notice is in grade 1, word reading fluency is strongly and uniquely related to oral reading fluency, whereas listening comprehension is not. But in grade 2, 3, and 4, both word reading fluency and listening comprehension are related. So what that means is, as children's word reading skills develop, on average, when they're in second grade, listening comprehension plays a unique role in children's oral reading fluency. So individual differences in listening comprehension matters for how fast they can read connected text over and above their word reading fluency. And it remains the same. Okay. Now looking at with the reading comprehension, in grade 1, the strongest predictor is word reading fluency. Listening comprehension is related across all the grades. In grade 1, word reading is strongly related, but oral reading fluency is not, after accounting for word reading fluency and listening comprehension. In grade 2, both word reading fluency and oral reading fluency are not uniquely related. It looks like there's multicollinearity. They're kind of canceling out. They're related with each other. Right? In grade 3, now oral reading fluency is uniquely related to reading comprehension over and above word reading fluency and listening comprehension. Grade 4, they're not. But what you notice in grade 4 is listening comprehension is dominating the relation here to reading comprehension with 0.90. So do you see kind of the progression? Okay. Now for Korean-speaking children, the results for kindergartners and first graders. similar. If you just focus not to this bar, right? Kindergartners, listening comprehension is not uniquely related to reading fluency, but for first graders, it is. Now moving on to reading comprehension, for kindergartners, or reading fluency is uniquely related to reading comprehension over and above their word reading fluency and listening comprehension. Here, remember, these are the same words, right, as these, right? Here, for first graders, both are not uniquely significant, but listening comprehension is dominating the relation. Very similar pattern. So if I put them together, the patterns are very similar. Right? So this beginning first graders pattern is similar to fourth graders in English, right? Beginning kindergartners relation, some aspect of it is similar to here, but some aspect of it is similar here. So, according to what we saw here, the developmental relations of word reading and listening comprehension to actually reading fluency, it has to be reading fluency, seems to be similar. So what it means is, during the beginning phase, decoding dominates the relation with reading fluency, but later, language comprehension comes into play, right? Because now at this point, kids do not have to pay attention to decoding as much. Now language comprehension comes into play for reading fluency. Now, we're going to revisit the reading fluency definition. The definition I showed you was a certain perspective, but there's another perspective. This is by Wolf and Katia-Cohen, 2001. According to them, in its beginnings, right? So they actually differentiate beginning phase and later phase. In its beginnings, reading fluency is the product of the initial development of accuracy and the subsequent development of automaticity in underlying sub-lexical processes, lexical processes, etc. And this seems to map onto this result that we saw, right? In the